Chapter 1. Whispers in the Storm. The wind howled through the narrow streets of Eldridge Hollow, a forgotten town nestled at the edge of the whispering woods. Snow flurries danced like ghosts under the flickering street lamps, blanketing the cobblestone paths in a pristine white shroud. Elara Voss pulled her woolen coat tighter around her shoulders, her breath fogging the air as she hurried home from the bakery. The scent of fresh-baked cinnamon rolls still clung to her clothes, a small comfort against the biting cold. At 32, Elara had built a life here for herself and her son, Finn, far from the chaos of her past. A broken marriage, a city that had chewed her up and spit her out. Eldridge was supposed to be her fresh start, a place where secrets stayed buried and the world moved slow. But tonight, something felt off. The woods, usually a silent sentinel, seemed alive with unrest. Branches cracked in the distance, and a low rumble echoed. Not thunder, but something primal, like the growl of a beast. Elara quickened her pace, her boots crunching through the snow. Finn would be waiting, probably curled up by the fire with one of his adventure books, his wide blue eyes full of questions about why Mommy worked so late. He was only 9, but sharp as a tack, always noticing things others missed. Like the way Elara's hands trembled sometimes, or how she avoided the full moon's gaze. As she turned the corner onto Maple Lane, a shadow detached from the alleyway ahead. It was massive, hulking, and for a heartbeat, Elara thought it was a bear, impossible this close to town. But then it moved with a fluid grace, eyes gleaming yellow in the dim light. A wolf. Not just any wolf. This one was enormous, its fur a sleek midnight black, rippling with muscle. It staggered toward her, limping on one paw, blood staining the snow beneath it. Elara froze, her heart pounding in her throat. Wolves didn't come into town. The locals whispered about them, old tales of guardians in the woods, but she'd dismissed them as folklore. Now, here one was, collapsing at her feet with a pained whine. Its eyes locked onto hers, intelligent, almost human, and something stirred deep inside her, a pull she couldn't explain. Fear warred with an inexplicable urge to help. "Stay back," she whispered to herself, but her feet betrayed her, inching closer. The wolf's flank heaved with labored breaths, a deep gash visible along its side. It didn't snarl or snap. Instead, it watched her, as if pleading. Elara glanced around, no one else on the street, the storm driving everyone indoors. She couldn't just leave it to die. Cursing her soft heart, she knelt, her hands hovering. "Easy, boy. Or girl. I won't hurt you." The wolf's ears perked, and it let out a soft huff, almost like a sigh. Gingerly, she reached out, her fingers brushing its fur. It was warm, softer than she'd imagined, and beneath it, she felt the rapid thrum of a heartbeat. The creature leaned into her touch, and a strange warmth spread through her veins, chasing away the cold. "What am I doing?" she thought, panic rising. But before she could pull away, the wolf's eyes fluttered, and it slumped fully into the snow. Unconscious. Elara's mind raced. The vet was miles away, closed for the night. Her bakery was just around the block, empty, warm, with supplies she could use to bandage the wound. With a grunt, she looped her arms under the wolf's front legs, dragging it inch by inch. It was heavier than it looked, but adrenaline fueled her. By the time she reached the back door of Voss's Delights, her muscles screamed in protest. She fumbled with her keys, shoved the door open, and hauled the beast inside, onto a pile of clean flour sacks. The bakery's kitchen was her sanctuary. Wooden counters worn from years of kneading dough, ovens still radiating heat from the day's bake. Elara locked the door, her hands shaking as she grabbed a first aid kit from the shelf. She'd patched up Finn's scrapes plenty of times, but this was insane. Kneeling beside the wolf, she cleaned the gash with antiseptic, wincing at the depth of it. Claw marks, she realized. Another animal's doing? As she worked, the wolf stirred slightly, its eyes cracking open to watch her again. That gaze, it pierced her, stirring emotions she hadn't felt in years. Loneliness, perhaps. Or something deeper, like recognition. There, she murmured, wrapping gauze around the wound. That should hold. Now, what do I do with you? The wolf nuzzled her hand weakly, its tongue lolling out in what seemed like gratitude. Elara sat back on her heels, exhaustion washing over her. She should call animal control, but the thought twisted her gut. No, she'd let it rest here tonight, then figure it out in the morning. As the storm raged outside, Elara brewed a pot of tea, keeping vigil. Hours passed, the wolf's breathing steadying. She dozed off in a chair, only to jolt awake at dawn's first light filtering through the windows. The wolf was gone. In its place lay a man, naked, bruised, with the same gash on his side, now bandaged. Elara's scream caught in her throat. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair and a chiseled jaw shadowed by stubble. His eyes, those same piercing yellow, fluttered open, locking onto hers with the intensity that made her pulse race. Who are you?" she stammered, backing against the counter. The man groaned, sitting up slowly, his muscles flexing under tanned skin marked by old scars. "You saved me," he rasped, his voice deep and gravelly, like thunder rolling over hills. "Thank you." Elara grabbed a rolling pin, brandishing it like a weapon. "How did you get in here? Where's the wolf?" His lips quirked in a wry smile, but pain etched his features. "The wolf is me, Elara Voss. My name is Thorne Blackwood, and you've just stepped into a world you weren't meant to see." Her world tilted. This couldn't be real, but the evidence lay before her, the bandages, the blood on the floor. Thorne winced as he shifted, and instinctively she moved to help him, her hand on his arm. That same warmth flooded her, electric, undeniable. "Why do I feel like I know you?" she whispered, confusion swirling with fear. Thorne's gaze softened, a flicker of something vulnerable beneath his guarded exterior. "Fate has a way of binding souls, but you should run from me, Elara. I'm dangerous." She didn't move. Instead, she helped him to his feet, draping a tablecloth around his waist for modesty. As he leaned on her, their bodies close, a spark ignited. Tension, curiosity, and something forbidden. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. The alpha king of the Shadow Pack had found his mate in a human baker, and the secrets of the woods were about to unravel everything. Finn burst through the front door later that morning, his school bag slung over his shoulder. "Mom, I smelled cinnamon from down the street." His eyes widened at the sight of Thorne, now dressed in an oversized apron Elara had improvised as a shirt. "Who's he?" Elara forced a smile, her mind reeling. "Just a friend who needed help, sweetie." But Finn tilted his head, staring at Thorne with unnerving intensity. "He smells like the woods, like a dog, or a wolf." Thorne chuckled lowly, but his eyes narrowed. The boy saw too much. As the day wore on, Thorne insisted on leaving, but weakness kept him there. Elara fed him, their conversations tentative. Her about her life in Eldridge, escaping an abusive ex. Him evasive about his family in the woods. Yet with each word, the pull grew stronger, like invisible threads drawing them together. By evening, as Finn chattered about school, Thorne watched Elara with a hunger that wasn't just physical. She felt it too, a ache in her chest, as if she'd been waiting for him all her life. But outside, in the shadows of the woods, eyes watched. Rivals who had wounded the alpha, sensing his vulnerability. and Elara's world was about to collide with theirs in ways she could never imagine. Chapter 2. Shadows of the Past. The aroma of fresh bread filled Voss's delights the next morning, a comforting ritual that grounded Elara amid the chaos swirling in her mind. She kneaded dough with mechanical precision, her thoughts replaying the events of the previous night like a fever dream. Thorne Blackwood, stranger, savior, or something far more dangerous, had vanished before dawn, slipping out the back door with a murmured promise to return. "We need to talk," he'd said, his voice a low rumble that sent shivers down her spine. But talk about what? The impossible transformation? The way his touch ignited a fire in her veins? Finn hummed tunelessly as he helped set out trays of pastries, his small hands careful not to smudge the icing. "Mom, that man yesterday, Thorne? He looked like he came from the stories Grandma used to tell, about the wolves that protect the town." Elara paused, flour dusting her apron. Her mother had spun those tales, legends of ancient guardians in the whispering woods, shapeshifters bound by the moon and fate. Elara had always dismissed them as bedtime stories, especially after her mother's sudden disappearance years ago. "Just stories, Finn. Thorns, a traveler who got hurt in the storm." Finn's blue eyes, so like her own, narrowed thoughtfully. "But he smelled funny, like wet fur and pine trees. And you looked at him weird, like when you see something you want but can't have." Her cheeks flushed. "Enough chatter, kiddo. Go open the shop." As the bell above the door jingled with the first customers, Elara tried to focus on the rhythm of the day, pouring coffee, wrapping scones, exchanging small talk with the locals. Eldridge Hollow was a tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone's business, but no one pried too deep. It suited her, especially after fleeing the city and her ex-husband's controlling grip. Marcus had left scars, not just physical ones, but the kind that made trust a luxury she couldn't afford. Yet Thorne, he stirred something dormant, a longing she hadn't felt since before Finn was born. Was it the mystery, the danger, or that inexplicable pull, like gravity drawing her closer? By midday, the bakery buzzed with activity. Elara was behind the counter when the door swung open, admitting a gust of cold air and a familiar figure. Thorne stood there, clad in a worn leather jacket and jeans that hugged his powerful frame. His dark hair was tousled, as if he'd run through the woods, and those yellow-flecked eyes scanned the room before landing on her. A small smile tugged at his lips, softening the rugged lines of his face. "Elara," he greeted, his voice carrying over the chatter. Heads turned. Mrs. Hargrove from the post office whispered to her companion, eyeing the stranger with curiosity. She wiped her hands on a towel, her heart skipping. "Thorne, you're up and about. Feeling better?" He approached the counter, leaning in slightly. Up close, he smelled of earth and musk, a scent that made her head spin. "Thanks to you. I owe you more than words can say." Finn popped up from behind the display case, his eyes wide. "Hey, mister. You came back. Want a cookie? Mom makes the best ones." Thorne chuckled, a deep, genuine sound that warmed the room. "I'd love one, kid. What's your name?" "Finn," he replied proudly, handing over a chocolate chip cookie. "You look strong, like you could fight a bear." Thorne's gaze flickered to Elara, something unreadable in his expression. "I've fought worse, but strength isn't always about fighting." As customers thinned out for lunch, Thorne lingered, helping Finn stack empty trays while Elara brewed him a cup of tea. Their conversation started light, her love for baking as an escape, how the scents reminded her of happier times. He shared snippets, growing up in the woods, a family that relied on him, the solitude that came with responsibility. "You're not from around here," she probed gently, sliding a slice of apple pie his way. "What brings you to Eldridge?" His fork paused mid-air. Business, old ties to the land. He met her eyes, intensity simmering. And now, you. She laughed it off, but heat bloomed in her chest. Flattery from a man who turns into a wolf? That's a new one. Thorne's smile faded, replaced by a guarded look. About that, it's not something I share lightly. My kind, we keep to the shadows for a reason. Your kind? She leaned closer, voice hushed. Shifters? Like the legends? He nodded slowly. Werewolves, if you want the crude term. Bound by bloodlines, the moon's cycle. It's a curse for some, a gift for others. His hand brushed hers as he took the plate, sending sparks up her arm. You weren't supposed to see me like that. But fate, it has its ways. Fate. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. Elara pulled back, busying herself with wiping the counter. Fate got me into enough trouble before. I'm just trying to build a life here with Finn. Thorne glanced at the boy, who was sketching wolves in his notebook at a corner table. He's perceptive. Sees things most don't. A shadow crossed his face. That could be dangerous. Her protective instincts flared. What do you mean? Before he could answer, the door burst open. A group of rough-looking men entered, hunters from the outskirts, led by Silas Reed, a burly figure with a perpetual scowl. They were known for patrolling the woods, chasing off pests. Silas's eyes narrowed on Thorne. Blackwood. Heard you were sniffing around town. Woods ain't safe these days. Big wolf on the loose last night. Thorne straightened, his posture shifting to something predatory. Mind your own, Reed. I'm just here for pie. Silas snorted, glancing at Elara. Careful who you serve, Ms. Voss. Some strays bite. The tension crackled like electricity. Elara stepped between them. Gentlemen, if you're not buying, you're leaving. Silas smirked but backed off, his crew following. As the door shut, Thorne exhaled, his shoulders relaxing. Old rivals. They don't take kindly to my... family. Elara's pulse raced. They know what you are? Not everything, but enough to cause trouble. He reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. I didn't mean to bring this to your door. She didn't pull away this time. Instead, she squeezed back, feeling the calluses on his palm. Marks of a life lived raw. Why do I feel like I've known you forever? Like we were meant to meet? Thorne's eyes darkened with emotion, longing, perhaps regret. Soul bonds. In my world, they're real. When two are fated, nothing can sever it. But it's complicated. Dangerous for a human like you. Human like her. The words stung, highlighting the chasm between them. Yet as afternoon faded, Thorne stayed, sharing stories that peeled back his layers. He spoke of loss, a pack torn by betrayal, an alpha's burden to protect what's left. Elara opened up too, about Marcus's abuse, how she'd fled with Finn in the dead of night, vowing never to let a man control her again. You're stronger than you know, Thorne said softly as they closed the shop. Finn had dozed off in the back, leaving them alone in the dim light. Healing isn't linear, but you've built something beautiful here. Their faces were inches apart, breaths mingling. Elara's heart thundered. And you? What heals you? You, he whispered, his thumb brushing her cheek. The contact was electric, stirring a heat that pooled low in her belly. But he pulled back, jaw clenched. I should go, before I drag you into my shadows. As he turned, Elara grabbed his arm. Wait, come back tomorrow. Finn likes you. And so do I. Thorne's smile was bittersweet. Tomorrow, then. He slipped into the night, leaving her breathless. But outside in the wood's embrace, Thorne shifted, his wolf form racing through the trees. The pull to her was undeniable, a mate's call echoing in his blood. Yet secrets loomed, his pack's ancient curse, the rivals closing in, and Finn's innocent words earlier. Mom turns wolf when she sees you. The boy didn't know how right he might be, if fate twisted further. That night, Elara dreamed of running through forests, fur rippling, Thorne by her side. Waking, she touched her skin, wondering if the wild called to her too. Word count: 1056. Chapter 3. Echoes of the Moon. The full moon hung low over Eldridge Hollow like a watchful eye, casting silvery light through the bakery's windows. Elara couldn't sleep, her mind a whirlwind of Thorne's words from the day before. Soul bonds, fate, danger. She paced the small apartment above the shop, where she and Finn lived in cozy simplicity, a far cry from the suffocating luxury of her old life with Marcus. The scars from that marriage weren't just emotional. A faint line on her wrist from where he'd grabbed her too hard reminded her daily why she guarded her heart. Downstairs, the bakery was dark, but she descended anyway, drawn by an restlessness she couldn't name. As she lit a candle, a soft knock echoed at the back door. Her pulse quickened. Peering through the peephole, she saw Thorne, his form silhouetted against the moonlight, eyes glowing faintly. She opened the door a crack. "Thorne? It's late. Finn's asleep." He shifted on his feet, looking more vulnerable than the powerful man she'd met. "I know. But the moon, it pulls at me. I needed to see you." His voice was rough, edged with something raw. Against her better judgment, she let him in. He stepped inside, the cold clinging to him like a second skin. Up close, under the candle's flicker, she noticed new bruises on his knuckles, as if he'd been fighting. "What happened?" "Pack matters," he said evasively, but his eyes betrayed exhaustion. "Nothing I can't handle." She guided him to a stool by the counter, fetching a cloth to dab at a cut on his brow. "You keep saying that, but you show up hurt. Let me help." Thorne caught her wrist gently, his touch sending that familiar warmth through her. "Why do you care, Elara? You barely know me." She met his gaze, unflinching. "Maybe because I see myself in you, running from something, hiding pain behind strength." She pulled away, but not before their fingers lingered. "Tea?" He nodded, watching as she busied herself with the kettle. The silence stretched, comfortable yet charged. Finally, he spoke. "My pack, the shadow pack, we've guarded these woods for generations. But a curse hangs over us, tied to the bloodlines. It makes the shift unpredictable, dangerous under stress." Elara poured the steaming liquid, sliding a mug his way. "A curse? Like in the stories?" "Worse than stories." He wrapped his hands around the mug, staring into it. "It started with my ancestors. A betrayal by a rival pack led to a witch's hex. Now on full moons like tonight, the beast takes over if emotions run high. I've lost people because of it." His voice cracked slightly, and Alara's heart ached. She sat beside him, their knees brushing. "Who did you lose?" Thorne hesitated, his jaw tightening. "My sister, Lena. She was young, caught in a shift gone wrong. I couldn't save her." The admission hung heavy, vulnerability etching his features. "Since then, I've shouldered the alpha role alone, keeping everyone at arm's length. Until you." Elara reached out, covering his hand with hers. "I'm sorry. I know loss, too. My mother vanished when I was a teen. Went into the woods one night and never came back. The town said it was an accident, but I always felt there was more. Like she was called away." Thorne's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition. "The woods have secrets. Your mother? Her name was Mira Voss?" She nodded, surprised. "How did you?" "Legends in the pack. A human who wandered too close, drawn by the call." He squeezed her hand. "Perhaps fate's threads run deeper than we know." The air thickened with unspoken tension. Elara felt exposed, yet safe in his presence. Marcus, my ex, he made me feel small, trapped. I stayed too long for Finn's sake, but one night, he raised a hand to our son. That was it. We ran. Thorne's expression darkened, a low growl rumbling in his chest, not human, but protective. If he ever comes near you again. She shivered at the intensity, but it wasn't fear. It was something thrilling, knowing someone cared that fiercely. He's gone, but the fear lingers. Trust doesn't come easy. Nor for me, Thorne admitted. Being alpha means solitude. No weaknesses. But with you, I feel anchored. They sat like that, hands entwined, sharing silences that spoke volumes. The moon's light bathed them, and Elara noticed how Thorne's skin seemed to shimmer faintly, as if the beast lurked just beneath. Does it hurt? The shift? Sometimes, but it's part of me. He traced a finger along her palm, mapping invisible lines. You calm it, though. Your touch, it's like a balm. Heat flushed her cheeks. The slow burn between them ignited further, a glance turning into a lingering stare. Thorne leaned in, his breath warm against her skin. Elara, I shouldn't be here. The pull is too strong. Then why are you? She whispered, her lips inches from his. Before he could answer, a creak from the stairs made them pull apart. Finn appeared, rubbing his eyes, clad in pajamas. Mom? I heard voices. Elara stood quickly, smoothing her hair. It's just Thorne, sweetie. He stopped by for a chat. Finn's gaze darted between them, curious. Under the moon? Grandma said the moon makes wolves sing. Thorne smiled faintly. Your grandma was wise. Want to hear a story about the moon and the wolves? Finn nodded eagerly, climbing onto a stool. Thorne wove a tale of ancient shifters bound by lunar magic, finding mates who tamed the wild within. As he spoke, his voice mesmerized, deep and rhythmic. Elara watched, seeing a softer side to the alpha, one that connected effortlessly with her son. By the story's end, Finn yawned, leaning against Elara. That was cool. Thorne, are you a wolf like in the story? Thorne chuckled, but his eyes held a shadow. What do you think? Finn tilted his head. Maybe. Mom looks happy when you're here, like she wants to howl too. Elara's laugh was nervous. Bedtime, mister. She tucked Finn back in, returning to find Thorne by the window, staring at the moon. He's right, you know. You do seem different around me. She approached, placing a hand on his back, muscles tensed under her touch, then relaxed. Different how? Alive, he murmured, turning to face her. But I have secrets, Elara. Ones that could hurt you. Tell me one, she challenged softly. Build that trust. He sighed, pulling her into a loose embrace, platonic, yet intimate. The curse, it can pass to mates. If we bond fully, you might change. Become like me. Her breath caught. The idea terrified and intrigued her. Is that why you hold back? Part of it. His arms tightened. I won't force that on you, but the rivals, Silas and his hunters, they're not just men. Some are exiles from rival packs, seeking to exploit the curse, take my territory. Danger loomed, but in his arms, Elara felt protected. They stood like that, hearts sinking, the slow dance of emotions deepening. As dawn crept in, Thorne kissed her forehead, a chaste promise. I have to go. Pack calls. Come back, she said, voice steady. I will. He slipped out, vanishing into the woods. The next day, the bakery hummed with normalcy, but Elara's thoughts lingered on Thorne. Finn drew pictures of wolves and moons, chattering about Uncle Thorne. When Silas returned, eyeing her suspiciously, she stood tall, echoing Thorne's strength. That evening, a note appeared under the door. Meet me at the edge of the woods at dusk. T. Her heart raced. Adventure? Risk? But the bond pulled her forward. As she approached the tree line, Thorne waited, human but wild-eyed. I want to show you something. My world. Hand in hand, they ventured deeper, the forest alive with whispers. He pointed out hidden paths, shared lore of glowing fungi that marked safe havens. This is where I run free, he said, voice hushed. Elara felt the magic, a tingle in her veins. It's beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful. Like you, she thought. They paused by a stream, moonlight reflecting. Thorne turned to her. Elara, the bond. It's growing. I feel your emotions, faint echoes. She stepped closer. I feel it too, like you're part of me. Their lips nearly met when a howl pierced the night. Urgent, warning. Thorne stiffened. Intruders. Stay here. He shifted before her eyes, fur rippling, becoming the black wolf. With a protective nudge, he bounded off, leaving her breathless. Minutes later, growls echoed, then silence. Thorne returned, human again, bloodied but victorious. Silas's scouts. They're getting bolder. Elara tended his wounds by the stream, their touches lingering. You protected me. Always, he vowed. As they walked back, the suspense built. What else hid in his secrets? And Finn's words echoed. Her turning wolf. Was it metaphor? Or prophecy? The bond deepened, but shadows loomed, promising trials ahead. Chapter 4. Whispers of the Wild. The forest's edge felt like a threshold between worlds, the dense canopy swallowing the last rays of dusk as Elara waited for Thorne's return. Her breath came in visible puffs, the chill seeping through her coat, but it was nothing compared to the storm of emotions churning inside. The howls from earlier had faded, leaving an eerie silence broken only by the rustle of leaves. She paced, her mind replaying the seamless shift she'd witnessed. Man to wolf, as natural as breathing. It should terrify her, send her running back to the safety of her bakery. Instead, it drew her in, like a moth to flame. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours before Thorne emerged from the shadows, his human form clad in the same leather jacket, now torn at the sleeve. Blood streaked his cheek, but his eyes, those piercing yellow depths, softened upon seeing her. Elara, he breathed, closing the distance in long strides. You stayed. Of course I did, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She reached up, wiping the blood away with her sleeve. Are you okay? Those howls. He caught her hand, holding it against his face. The warmth of his skin contrasted the cool night air, sending that familiar electric current through her. Just scouts, testing boundaries. They're gone for now. His thumb stroked her knuckles, a gentle reassurance. You shouldn't be out here. It's not safe. Then why bring me? She challenged, though she didn't pull away. Being this close to him, feeling the solid strength of his presence, made the dangers seem distant. Thorne's gaze dropped to their joined hands. Because I can't stay away. The bond, it's like a tether, pulling me back to you. He released her, stepping back as if the admission cost him. But showing you this world, it's selfish. You have Finn to think about. Finn. The mention of her son grounded her. He's with the neighbor tonight. I told him I had errands. Guilt twisted in her gut. She hated lying, even small ones. But how could she explain this? Thorne, what aren't you telling me? About the curse, the pack. There's more, isn't there? He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration etching his features. Always more. But not tonight. Let me walk you home. They moved side by side through the winding path back to town, the moon climbing higher, bathing everything in ethereal light. Thorne pointed out subtle signs. A claw-marked tree signifying territory. A cluster of berries that healed shifter wounds faster. Each revelation peeled back another layer of his world, making it feel less like myth and more like hidden reality. Elara listened, fascinated, her questions probing gently. "Do all shifters have packs?" she asked, their arms brushing as they navigated a narrow trail. "Most do. It's instinct. Strength in numbers. But mine, the Shadow Pack, we're dwindling. The curse weakens us, makes alliances fragile." His voice lowered, laced with old pain. "As Alpha, I hold it together, but it's a lonely crown." Alpha. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. Elara stopped, turning to face him. "You're their leader? Like a king?" Thorne's lips quirked in a humorless smile. "Something like that. But kings fall, Elara, and I've got enemies who want that crown." The suspense coiled tighter. She sensed he was holding back specifics, perhaps to protect her. "Why tell me now?" "Because you deserve truth, bit by bit." He took her hand again, leading her onward. Their conversation shifted to lighter ground, her favorite recipes, how baking was her therapy after Marcus. Thorne shared rare laughs about pack antics, like young pups shifting mid-game and causing chaos. "You'd like them," he said softly. "The pack. Their family, flaws and all." The idea warmed her, but doubt crept in. A human in a wolf pack? Sounds like a recipe for disaster. "Not just any human," he murmured, stopping at the tree line where the town lights flickered into view. "One who's fated." There it was again. Fate. Alara's heart raced as he pulled her closer, their bodies aligning. The heat from him chased away the cold, his scent enveloping her like the woods themselves. "What does that mean exactly? This bond?" Thorne's hand cupped her cheek, his touch feather-light. "It means I feel your heartbeat as my own. Your joys, your fears. It's rare, sacred. But for us, with the curse, it could change everything." She leaned into him, their foreheads touching. "Change me?" "Possibly." His breath mingled with hers. "If we complete the bond, through choice, through love, it might awaken something in you, or break the curse entirely. But it's a risk." The vulnerability in his eyes deepened their connection, a silent promise of shared burdens. Alara's fingers traced his jaw, feeling the stubble, the pulse beneath. "I'm scared, Thorne, but not of you." Their lips met then, tentative at first. A brush of softness that ignited the slow-burning fire between them. It wasn't passion's rush, but a deepening tenderness, emotions pouring out in the gentle press. Thorne's arms wrapped around her, holding her like she was precious, breakable. When they parted, breathless, his eyes searched hers. "I've waited lifetimes for that." Elara smiled, a mix of wonder and trepidation. "Me too, somehow." They walked the rest of the way in companionable silence, hands linked. At her door, Thorne lingered. "Tomorrow, let me help at the bakery. Finn can show me his drawings." She nodded, the bond pulling taut as he left. Inside, Finn was already asleep, his sketches scattered. Wolves, moons, and curiously, a woman with wolf-like eyes. Elara tucked him in, her mind swirling. The next morning, the bakery bustled with the scent of vanilla and spice. Thorne arrived early, sleeves rolled up, ready to assist. Finn beamed, dragging him to knead dough. "Like this, Uncle Thorne. Squish it hard." Thorne laughed, his large hands dwarfing the boy's. "You've got the touch, kid. Better than me." Watching them, Alara's heart swelled. Thorne was patient, engaging Finn in stories that skirted the truth. Adventures in the woods, imaginary wolves. But Finn's perceptiveness shone through. "Thorne, why do your eyes turn yellow sometimes? Like a dog's?" Thorne glanced at Elara, a flicker of unease. "Just the light, buddy. Tricks of the eye." But Finn persisted, later whispering to Elara, "He's special, Mom. Like us." Us? The word nagged at her. That afternoon, as they closed shop, Silas Reed loomed outside, watching. Thorne tensed, ushering them inside. He's probing, senses weakness. "What weakness?" Elara asked, fear edging her voice. "Me. Distracted by you." Thorne pulled her into a hug, his strength reassuring. "But you're my strength too." They spent the evening together, dinner at her apartment, simple pasta and laughter. Finn chattered about school, but his eyes kept darting to Thorne, as if sensing the unspoken. After tucking Finn in, Elara and Thorne sat by the fire, sharing wine. "Tell me more about the curse," she prompted, curling against him. Thorne sighed, his arm around her shoulders. "It stems from a witch's betrayal centuries ago. My bloodline was punished, shifts become violent, bonds twisted. Only a true mate can break it, but it requires sacrifice." Sacrifice? Suspense built. What wasn't he saying? "Trust me," he whispered, kissing her temple. "In time." Their kisses deepened that night, hands exploring with restrained hunger. The bond thrummed, emotions intertwining, her healing from past wounds, his from isolation. But as passion built, Thorne pulled back, eyes glowing. "Not yet. The moon's influence. I won't risk hurting you." Elara nodded, understanding the restraint. "Soon." He left reluctantly, promising return. But in the woods, Thorne met his beta, Ronan. The rivals are rallying Alpha, and the boy, Finn, he carries the scent. Old blood. Thorne growled, "Protect them. Elara's mother. Mira was one of us. Hidden." The secret deepened. Elara's heritage, unknown to her, could change everything. As dawn broke, Elara found an old photo of her mother, eyes eerily similar to Thorne's. Doubt seeded. Was the wild in her blood too? The pull intensified, leading to revelations ahead. Chapter 5. Threads of Heritage. Elara turned the old photograph over in her hands, the edges worn from years of hidden storage. Her mother, Mira, stared back with eyes that now seemed too vivid, too piercing, eerily similar to Thorne's golden-flecked gaze. The resemblance hit her like a gust of wind, stirring questions she'd long buried. Mira had always been a mystery, a free spirit who vanished into the whispering woods one stormy night, leaving behind a teenage Elara and a trail of unanswered whispers. The official story was a hiking accident, but Elara had never believed it. Now, with Thorne's revelations echoing in her mind, doubt seeded deeper. Was there shifter blood in her veins? Did that explain the inexplicable pull she felt toward the woods, toward him? She tucked the photo into her apron pocket as the bakery's oven timer dinged, pulling her back to the present. Finn was at school, the morning rush would start soon, but her thoughts lingered on Thorne. Their kiss last night had been a turning point, tender, charged with unspoken promises. Yet his warnings about the curse and the bond left her unsettled, a mix of longing and fear. The door jingled, and Thorne stepped in, carrying a faint scent of pine and earth. His presence filled the room, commanding yet gentle. "Morning?" he said, his voice a low rumble that sent warmth curling through her. "You're early," Elara replied, forcing a smile as she plated fresh muffins. "Coffee?" He nodded, leaning against the counter. Up close, she noticed the faint lines of fatigue around his eyes, as if the night's patrols had taken a toll. "Couldn't sleep. Thinking about you." Her cheeks warmed. "Same here." She handed him the cup, their fingers brushing, a deliberate touch that lingered. "I found something. An old photo of my mother. Her eyes. They look like yours?" Thorne's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise quickly masked. "Mira Voss. I knew of her through pack lore. She was special." "Special how?" Elara pressed, Her voice hushed as the first customer entered. She waved them to the display case, buying time. Thorne waited until they were alone again. She crossed paths with our kind. Fell in love with a shifter, or so the stories go. But humans and shifters, it's forbidden in some circles. Dangerous. Elara's heart stuttered. My father? He died when I was young, in a car accident. Mom never talked about him much. Perhaps there's more to uncover. Thorne's hand covered hers on the counter. But digging up the past? It could hurt. The vulnerability in his tone deepened their connection. Elara squeezed his hand. I've spent years running from pain. With you, I feel like I can face it. He smiled faintly, a rare softness breaking through his guarded facade. You're braver than most alphas I know. As the morning unfolded, Thorne stayed, helping with the bustle. He charmed the locals with easy banter, but his eyes always returned to her, protective and affectionate. Finn arrived after school, bounding in with energy. Thorne, look what I drew! He thrust a paper forward, a family of wolves under a moon, one with blue eyes like Elara's. Thorne knelt to Finn's level, examining it seriously. Impressive. This one looks fierce, like a protector. That's you, Finn said matter-of-factly. And that's Mom, watching over me. Elara's throat tightened, watching Thorne interact with her son, patient, engaging, stirred emotions she hadn't allowed herself to feel. He was building a place in their lives, brick by brick, without force. Later, as the shop quieted, they stole moments. Thorne shared more about pack life, rituals under the moon, the camaraderie that masked underlying tensions. Being alpha means decisions that weigh heavy, he confessed, while they cleaned counters side by side. Lives depend on me, but lately I question if it's worth the isolation. Elara paused, cloth in hand. You don't have to be alone anymore. She stepped closer, her hand on his arm. The muscle tensed, then relaxed under her touch. His gaze intensified. You make me want things I shouldn't. A mate, a family. But the curse. Forget the curse for a moment, she interrupted softly. Tell me what you want. Thorne pulled her into his arms, the embrace firm yet tender. You. Us. A life where I don't have to hide. Their lips met in a slow kiss, deeper than before, emotions pouring out, her need for stability, his for connection. Hands roamed gently, exploring the contours of backs and shoulders, building the slow burn of desire. When they broke apart, breathless, Thorne rested his forehead against hers. You're healing me, Elara, piece by piece. And you me, she whispered. But the photo in her pocket burned like a secret, suspense lingering. What if her heritage tied into his curse? That evening, after Finn's bedtime stories, told by Thorne, weaving in subtle shifter myths, they sat on the apartment's small balcony, overlooking the woods. The air was crisp, stars twinkling above. Tell me about your scars, Elara said, tracing a faint line on his forearm visible under rolled sleeves. Thorne glanced down. This one? From a challenge years ago? A rival beta thought he could take the alpha title. He chuckled dryly. He learned otherwise. She leaned against him, his arm draping around her shoulders. Does it ever end, the fighting? Not until the curse lifts. It's tied to our blood. Unstable shifts, lost control. Only a true bond can mend it, but it requires everything. Everything. The word hung, laden with implication. Elara's mind raced to her mother. What if I'm not fully human? If Mira was involved with shifters? Thorne stiffened slightly. Then the bond could be even stronger, but we'd need proof. Pack archives might hold answers. Take me there, she urged, excitement mingling with fear. I need to know. He hesitated, eyes searching hers. It's risky. The pack isn't welcoming to outsiders. And Silas, his hunters are circling closer. As if summoned, a distant howl echoed from the woods. Warning, urgent. Thorne stood, alert. That's Ronan, my beta. Trouble. Go, Elara said, though worry knotted her gut. But come back safe. He kissed her fiercely, a promise in the press. Always. Then he was gone, melting into the night. Alone, Elara pulled out the photo again, studying Mira's face. Similarities to Thorne's wolf form nagged at her. The sharp features, the wild glint. Finn's words echoed, like us. Was her son sensing it too? The next day brought unease. Silas entered the bakery, his presence like a storm cloud. Ms. Voss, associating with Blackwood? Bad idea. Woods are full of beasts. Elara stood tall, channeling Thorne's strength. My business, Silas. Buy or leave. He smirked, dropping coins for a loaf. Just warning you, full moon's coming. Things change. His words chilled her. Suspense building. What did he know? Thorne returned that afternoon, unscathed but tense. Skirmish at the border. They're probing for weaknesses. Over lunch, they talked in hushed tones, Finn playing nearby. Thorne's hand found hers under the table, a grounding touch. I want to protect you both, but secrets, they have a way of unraveling. Tell me one more, she coaxed. About Mira. He sighed. Pack rumors say she was a latent shifter, blood dormant, awakened by love. She fled to protect you from the life. Latent. The word resonated, stirring a wildness within Elara. And if I am too? Thorne's eyes glowed faintly. Then fate's playing a deeper game. Their bond deepened in quiet moments, shared glances, lingering touches. That night, as rain pattered against windows, they cuddled on the couch, Finn asleep between them. Thorne's stories lulled, but his free hand traced patterns on her thigh, igniting sparks. I could get used to this, he murmured. So could I, she replied, heart full. But as sleep claimed her, dreams came, running as a wolf, Mira beside her, Thorne leading. Waking, she felt a shift inside, subtle, stirring. The suspense mounted, revelations loomed, threatening to transform everything. Thorne's secret identity as Alpha intertwined with her hidden heritage, pulling them toward a pivotal choice. Chapter 6. The Tata Zauk, Moon's Claim. Closing and ending. The full moon rose crimson over the whispering woods, larger than any Elara had ever seen, as if the sky itself bled for what was coming. Thorne had warned her the night before, voice low and trembling with both fear and hope. Tomorrow the pack will demand judgment. The curse is breaking, Elara, but only if the true bond is sealed under this moon. If you refuse, I lose everything. Pack, life, you. If you accept, you may lose the human world forever. She had not slept. Finn, sensing the storm inside her, had curled against her chest and whispered, Mom, the wolves are calling you home. I'm not scared. I want to run with you. Those words shattered the last wall around her heart. Now, at the ancient circle deep in the forest, torches of blue fire ringed a clearing of moonlit stone. The entire shadow pack stood in a silent semicircle, some in human form, some as wolves, eyes glowing gold. Ronan, Thorne's beta, inclined his head in respect. Even Silas Reed and his exiled hunters were there, bound and on their knees, forced to witness. Thorne stood at the center, shirtless, the scars of 100 battles silver under the moon. When he saw Elara step from the trees, hand in hand with Finn, his breath caught. She wore the simple white dress she once saved for a wedding that never happened. Tonight it felt right. Reborn, not buried. Elara Voss, Thorne called, voice carrying the weight of an alpha king, yet cracking with emotion. Daughter of Mira of the hidden bloodline, bearer of the dormant flame. The moon asks, "Will you claim your fate and break the curse that has chained my people for 3 centuries?" Every wolf lowered its head. Elara's legs shook, but Finn squeezed her fingers. "We're not alone, Mom." She walked forward until she stood before Thorne. The bond between them pulsed like a second heartbeat. Wild. Undeniable. "I spent my life running from cages," she said, loud enough for the pack to hear. "From a man who tried to own me, from fear, from the truth in my own blood. I'm done running." Tears glittered in Thorne's eyes. "And the cost?" She smiled, fierce and free. Love was never cheap. Then, before the entire pack, she reached up and kissed him. Not soft, not slow, but acclaiming. The moment their lips met, light exploded from their joined bodies, white and searing. The ancient runes carved into the stone circle ignited. A howl rose from every throat, human and wolf alike. Pain came first, bones cracking, reshaping, fur blooming across her skin like midnight silk. Elara screamed, but it turned into a triumphant howl as the shift completed. She landed on 4 paws, larger than any female in the pack, her coat the color of fresh snow kissed by moonlight, eyes blazing sapphire and gold. Beside her, Finn laughed in delight as silver fur rippled over his small frame. A pup's first shift, painless and perfect. The curse recognized pure blood and broke its final chain. Thorne shifted too, the great black alpha, and nuzzled his mate with reverence. The pack surged forward, rubbing against them, tails high. Acceptance, submission, joy. Silas and his hunters dropped to their knees, heads bowed. The war was over before it began. Later, when the moon began its descent, the 3 of them stood on the highest ridge overlooking Eldridge Hollow. The town lights twinkled peacefully below, unaware that their guardian legends had just been made flesh. Elara, still in wolf form, turned to Thorne and spoke into his mind for the first time. "We don't have to choose between worlds. We'll protect both." Thorne's deep voice answered, warm with love and pride. "Together. Always." Finn yipped and chased his tail, then bounded ahead, leading them deeper into the woods that were now home. Years later, travelers passing through Eldridge Hollow would speak of a bakery that never closed, run by a woman with strangely bright eyes and a tall, dark-haired man who could fix anything with his hands. They would mention a wild boy who sometimes vanished into the trees at dusk, only to return with stories of running with the wolves. And on certain full moons, when the wind carried distant howls of pure joy, the oldest residents would smile and say, "The guardians are happy tonight." The curse was broken. The Alpha King had his queen, and the baker's son, now a young wolf with his mother's fire and his father's heart, had told the entire hall, the night the curse shattered, "Sir, my mom turns wolf when she sees you." The hall had not fallen silent that night. It had roared with celebration, and they lived, fiercely, freely, forever, under the moon's eternal blessing.